get, you better save that. Whatever money you get, save that, bro. Because they gonna need it.
But the money you making on this YouTube, you need to put it on your life insurance. Fuck people. Leave it like that.
You better check my profile. One thing I do is I walk through shit. Huh?
Your profile say hell of a podcaster. That's all I get from it. Ain't gangster about your profile. Now I see you soon.
The world of hip-hop YouTube commentary recently witnessed one of the most intense confrontations between a legal defendant and a content creator. What started as routine trial coverage evolved into a situation that raised serious questions about online safety, free speech, and the intersection of street culture with digital media. This story centers around two main figures: Hernandez Govan, a Memphis man who recently faced serious legal charges, and Ceddy Nash, a popular YouTube commentator known for covering hip-hop news and court cases. Their conflict represents a broader tension between traditional street politics and modern social media influence.
You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what I got going. I don't talk to y'all. So, let me state this emphatically clear. Ceddy Nash ain't got no Vlad TV interview. Ceddy Nash doesn't have no jumper interview. I don't have any interview. Matter of fact, as it stands right now, I don't think I'm ever doing any interviews. I'm not jumping on no panels. I'm not jumping on people's channels. I'm not doing no collabs. I'm not doing nothing. Nothing, not a thing.
To understand this controversy, we need to examine the legal case that brought Govan into the public spotlight. In 2021, Memphis lost one of its most prominent rap artists when young Dolph was killed in broad daylight at a local bakery. The incident shocked the hip-hop community and led to a complex legal investigation. Prosecutors eventually charged multiple individuals in connection with the case. While two men faced direct charges for the shooting, authorities also targeted Govan as an alleged orchestrator of the crime. The prosecution painted him as someone who operated behind the scenes, coordinating criminal activities while maintaining distance from direct involvement. The stakes in Govan's case were enormous. If convicted on the most serious charges, he faced the possibility of life imprisonment. For months, he sat in custody while his legal team prepared a defense strategy that would ultimately prove successful. During this period, various media outlets and social media personalities covered the case extensively. YouTube commentators, in particular, found the story compelling content for their audiences. The intersection of hip-hop culture, street politics, and a high-profile murder case provided exactly the kind of dramatic narrative that drives engagement on social platforms.
Now, what's your relationship with Yo Gotti?
I don't have a relationship with him. I never met him, never did any business with him whatsoever. That's why it was strange to me, all the comments and hoorah on social media accusing me of doing things that was absolutely not true, because I never had any dealings with Yo Gotti whatsoever, period.
After extensive legal proceedings, Govan's case finally went to trial in August 2025. The prosecution presented what they believed was compelling evidence linking him to the coordination of young Dolph's murder. They argued that while others may have carried out the physical act, Govan was the mastermind who orchestrated the entire operation. The defense team countered with arguments about insufficient evidence, questionable witness testimony, and what they characterized as a rush to judgment by law enforcement. They portrayed their client as someone who had been unfairly targeted due to his background and associations, rather than concrete evidence of criminal behavior. When deliberations began, many observers expected a lengthy process given the complexity of the case and the serious nature of the charges. However, the jury reached their decision with surprising speed, deliberating for approximately 3 hours before returning with a not guilty verdict. The acquittal sent shockwaves through both the legal community and social media. Supporters of Govan celebrated what they saw as justice prevailing over circumstantial evidence and biased prosecution. Critics questioned whether the legal system had failed to hold accountable someone they believed was responsible for a prominent artist's death.
100% believe that one. But I knew stuff, but then it was kind of like, do I put it out? I knew that Dolph had a 6-figure bounty on his head. I was wondering.
Following his acquittal, Govan's public statements and behavior revealed a man who felt vindicated rather than humbled by his legal experience. Rather than maintaining a low profile as many legal experts might have advised, he began actively engaging with media and addressing what he perceived as unfair treatment during his incarceration. His lawyer's comments about the quick verdict suggested that the case against Govan had been fundamentally flawed from the beginning. The defense characterized the prosecution as an example of systemic bias against young black men in Memphis, arguing that insufficient evidence had been dressed up as a compelling case due to social and political pressure. This narrative of vindication became central to how Govan approached his post-trial life. Rather than viewing his acquittal as a narrow escape from serious consequences, he seemed to interpret it as confirmation that his accusers had been wrong from the start. This mindset would prove crucial in understanding his subsequent conflicts with media personalities.
Listen, bro, I feel bad for Young Dolph's people. You want to know why I feel bad for Young Dolph's people? Because the freaking police, the DA, all of these morons had the person who did it and decided not to.
To understand the collision course between Govan and content creators like Nash, it's important to recognize how hip-hop media has evolved in the digital age. Traditional journalism has given way to a more democratized form of commentary where individual creators can build substantial audiences by offering their perspectives on cultural events. Ceddy Nash represents this new generation of hip-hop commentators. Unlike traditional journalists who might maintain professional distance from their subjects, YouTube personalities often inject personal opinions, theories, and speculation into their coverage. This approach generates higher engagement, but also creates potential conflicts with the people being discussed. Nash built his platform by covering various aspects of hip-hop culture, from music releases to legal controversies. His willingness to discuss sensitive topics and offer controversial opinions helped him develop a loyal following. However, this same approach would eventually put him in direct conflict with someone who had the power to respond in ways beyond typical social media beef. During Govan's legal proceedings, Nash provided regular commentary and analysis. He discussed evidence presented in court, offered theories about what might have really happened, and speculated about the various players involved in the case. From Nash's perspective, this was legitimate journalism and commentary on a matter of public interest.
Mr. Govan, you haven't smiled all this week, but obviously you have a lot to smile about. Just tell me just about what you're feeling in right now.
Like I said, it's kind of hard to explain the feeling of getting your life back, just from 12 people. So I'm just blessed, and I'm just ready to go see my son.
What was going through your head when you were waiting for the verdict this morning?
Nervousness, of course, it's natural. But I got a team around me that was very confident and supportive, so without them, it wouldn't be no me. I just want to thank again Manny, Robert, Haley, Beth, Handel, Contrell, Leanne, and just everybody that played a part. And
while Govan sat in custody awaiting trial, he was aware of the coverage his case was receiving on social media platforms. Like many defendants in high-profile cases, he likely felt frustrated by his inability to respond to what he perceived as unfair characterizations of his situation. Nash's coverage appears to have particularly irritated Govan. Unlike traditional news outlets that might stick to basic facts, Nash offered opinions and theories that Govan felt crossed the line from reporting into character assassination. The personal nature of YouTube commentary meant that Nash wasn't just discussing legal proceedings. He was essentially building content and generating income by speculating about Govan's guilt or innocence. This dynamic created a unique form of tension. Traditional media criticism might be easier to dismiss, but YouTube commentators develop personal relationships with their audiences through regular content. When Nash discussed the case, he wasn't just reporting news, he was helping to shape public opinion about Govan's character and actions. The situation was further complicated by the nature of hip-hop culture, where perceived disrespect often demands response. In traditional street politics, someone who felt disrespected might have various options for addressing the situation. However, Govan's incarceration limited his ability to respond through conventional channels.
See it, and that's why it took, 2 hours to figure that out. I mean, obviously it would have probably been quicker had they not had to go through the evidence and do their job, but the fact that anybody in the press would say, oh, it was this or it was that, it was clearly flagrant, and I wish it would be reported as this is what your justice is in Memphis. So if you're black...
Following his acquittal, Govan wasted little time in addressing what he saw as unfair treatment by various media personalities. Rather than letting past grievances fade, he chose to directly confront those he felt had wronged him during his legal ordeal. The confrontation with Nash occurred during a live stream that lasted approximately 13 minutes, but created lasting impact across social media. The exchange was notable for its intensity and the specific nature of the threats made. Rather than typical social media posturing, the conversation had an edge that suggested real-world consequences might follow. Govan's approach during this confrontation revealed someone who felt empowered by his legal victory. His tone and demeanor suggested a person who believed his acquittal had validated his position and given him moral authority to address his critics. The way he spoke indicated someone who no longer felt constrained by the caution that legal jeopardy typically imposes. The specific threat about life insurance was particularly chilling because of its precision. Rather than vague intimidation, Govan made a very specific suggestion about how Nash should prepare for potential consequences. The calculated nature of this threat distinguished it from typical online hostility. Nash's response showed someone trying to maintain dignity while clearly recognizing the serious nature of what had just occurred. His attempt to push back verbally demonstrated pride, but the overall dynamic of the conversation suggested an imbalance of power that went beyond simple social media beef. Not content with the initial confrontation, Govan escalated by challenging Nash to meet him in person in Los Angeles. This geographic specification was significant because it moved the conflict from digital space into potential physical reality. By naming a specific city, Govan was essentially daring Nash to prove his toughness in person. The choice of Los Angeles rather than Memphis or Atlanta was likely strategic. LA represents neutral territory where neither man would have significant home advantage. It also elevated the stakes by suggesting both parties would need to make significant effort to follow through on the confrontation. Remarkably, both men did end up in Los Angeles around the same time. Nash posted content showing himself in the city, creating a situation where online threats could potentially become physical reality. The internet watched with a mixture of fascination and concern as two people who had just threatened each other were potentially in the same geographic area. This development transformed the story from routine social media drama into something more serious. The possibility that online threats might lead to real-world violence added urgency to a situation that many observers initially dismissed as typical internet posturing. The aftermath of this confrontation revealed broader implications for hip-hop media and content creation. Nash's subsequent behavior suggested someone who was taking the threat seriously, even if he couldn't publicly acknowledge fear without damaging his reputation. His decision to stop participating in interviews and collaborations with other platforms represented a significant change in strategy for someone whose success had been built on visibility and engagement. This withdrawal from collaborative content suggested strategic thinking about reducing his profile and potential exposure to further conflict. The situation raised questions about the safety of content creators who cover sensitive topics in hip-hop culture. While social media has democratized commentary and given individuals unprecedented platforms, it has also created situations where traditional protections for journalists might not apply. Other content creators likely watched this situation carefully, recognizing that their own coverage choices might have consequences beyond typical online criticism. The chilling effect of seeing a prominent commentator essentially silenced through intimidation sent a message throughout the hip-hop YouTube community. As of now, the situation remains unresolved. Nash's reduced activity suggests someone who is being very careful about his next moves. Whether motivated by legitimate safety concerns or simply strategic caution, his lower profile represents a victory for those who might prefer less scrutiny of certain topics. Govan's success in apparently silencing or at least constraining a prominent critic demonstrates the continued power of traditional street politics even in digital spaces. His ability to leverage his legal victory into influence over social media commentary shows how offline power can translate into online control. The broader hip-hop community continues to watch this situation as a potential precedent. The question of whether content creators can safely discuss certain topics and individuals remains open, with potential implications for the future of independent hip-hop journalism. This confrontation ultimately represents more than personal beef between two individuals. It illustrates the complex intersection of traditional street culture, legal proceedings, social media influence, and personal safety in the modern hip-hop landscape. The resolution, or lack thereof, may influence how similar situations develop in the future.